The story of the Honda City is a pretty glorious one. Ever since it was first introduced in the Indian market in the year 1998, it has enjoyed a fantastic brand equity. But over the last few years, Honda had been struggling. One, because of course, the very static or the stagnant sedan category. And second, over the last couple of years, there have been a few introductions which have really shaken up the sedan class, the Virtus and the Slavia in particular. So Honda was definitely feeling the pinch, and there was a desperate need to do a little bit of a nip and tuck job of the City. And that's exactly what has happened with the facelifted version that you see here with me. The core design or the basic construction of the car is exactly the same, but because this is a facelifted version, there are some subtle changes that have been implemented. The biggest one is the bumper and the grille section. Thankfully, they have done away with that massive fat chrome bar. It's now a lot slimmer, and the grille is now honeycomb pattern, and also the plastics seem pretty decent. The thing that I'm not a big fan of is the lower portion of the bumper. And this one wears a sport body kit, so you get a little aggressive design. But these two bits at the either end, they look like teeth that have just outgrown the mouth, and it's all a bit unnecessary, I think. But anyway, I think from the outside, a lot of people will appreciate it. But yeah, when you start inspecting things a little bit in detail, you just kind of explore these issues. At the back, subtle change here in form of the boot lip mounted spoiler. Very discreet, very smart, and very nicely integrated. But at the bottom, it's all about aggression in form of this performance-oriented diffuser. Beautifully done. It helps pull the car to the ground, delivers insane amount of grip, and fantastic lap times on a track. I'm kidding, of course. This is misleading or a fake diffuser design made out of plastic with a carbon fiber look to it. So a lot of fakery going on here. Inside, the overall design execution is pretty much the same, but this facelifted version has been given what was needed for the longest time: a better infotainment experience. The system is still not the best out there, let me be very honest. The screen still is a little slow to respond. The whole system lags a little bit, but it's a night and day difference between what used to come and what this system offers. It's also Android Auto and Apple CarPlay ready. Both of them are wireless, and you also get wireless charging for your phone, which uniquely enough can be removed. And what you have in front of you then are a couple of cup holders. One that we have here in the facelifted version of the Honda City is, it's powered by the same 1.5 litre engine. Very trustworthy, something that is completely bulletproof, does about 120 horsepower, 145 Newton meter. So it's all something that you're very familiar with. Unfortunately, it's not something that is going to get you excited. Yes, the power figures seem pretty okay, but then again, you have to consider the fact that the Honda City has also grown. It has grown in size, the weight is more, so the performance is pretty average, or at least at the same level with the rest of the rivals. So it's not something that is smile-inducing in any way at all. But having said that, the flexibility and the drivability of the engine is pretty decent. Just that, don't expect fireworks from it and you'll be sorted. But one thing I will complain about this engine is when you start pushing it, when you get heavy on the throttle, hear that? It's not a very good sound from the engine, and it does get a bit drony as well. So yeah, not a very good experience when you hear it. And we then deliberately got ourselves the manual because, well, it's the Honda City. It has been synonymous with driving involvement, right from the word go, right from 1998. But yeah, dilution of course has happened, but it's still something that is in your head. And Hondas have always had very nice gear shifts, so it's just that I wanted to at least get a sense of being involved with the driving experience. That's why we got the manual. And the gearbox is okay. No complaints from this. At slow speeds or just when you're starting to move, it can feel a little rubbery. But otherwise, when you get into the flow and when you're in the rhythm of shifting, this thing really does work, and it brings a smile to your face because the shifts are really smooth. But again, one complaint is that when you heel and toe and when you try to match the revs when you're downshifting, the engine does not support you all that well. And that's something that Honda has deliberately done over the years to maximize fuel efficiency. In order to gain maximum or the more efficient burn, to burn the entire amount of fuel and air mixture off into the cylinders, it just stays the RPM a little bit so that the complete combustion happens. And that's where I think the rev matching just kind of goes a bit off. So you'll have to be very careful if you're into that kind of thing. If you're a person who does heel and toe and shifts down with rev matching, so yeah, it's not going to be as smooth an affair as otherwise you would experience in some of the cars. But enough of this talk around the engine and the driver involvement as such, because to be honest, this thing is not being driven by enthusiasts anymore. It is more for backseat comfort, and in delivering that, it's pretty decent. There was a time when I would just want to spend as much time as possible in the driving seat of the Honda City, driving the valves of its fantastic engine. But now I would much rather spend more time in the back seat of the car. It's true, I have more than enough space. Even tall people will not have any problems accommodating themselves in a very nice way. You can slide your feet under the front seats as well very nicely. And the general sense of airiness is good to have. The seats are also pretty okay, and you also have a fairly nicely cushioned armrest. So the overall experience when you're seated in the back is not bad. But there is one problem. You get two power outlets right in the middle over here, but both of them are 12-volt outlets, which is a little weird because right now we live in a world that lives off USB devices. So Honda should have ideally given us one 12-volt outlet, and the other one could have been used for a Type C, Type A, stuff like that. So that, yeah, Honda should have thought better. But even in the front, the experience is not bad at all. You have ample amount of space, the seats are nicely cushioned, the architecture of the seat itself is very nice as well, and you have a decent driving position, a bit high for my liking. I would really have wanted to sit a little lower still, but again, it's not too bad at all. The steering feels somewhat muted in the way it communicates with you, but the feedback is pretty okay. It changes direction pretty nicely as well. Just that it does not have, again, the engagement factor as such. But this facelift is not about dynamic changes or anything of that sort. The mechanical bits are exactly the same. The car behaves exactly the same. It's more about the features, and Honda has thrown in quite a few of them over here. Primarily has to do with the ADAS, and it's all camera-based affair. So you have a camera right here that senses everything around in the environment, and that's how it helps the car react to everything that you're subjected to. You have lane keep assist, you have adaptive cruise control, and that just works very nicely if you have roads which are clearly marked with the road separators. So you push this button and the car is going to maintain itself within the white lines. And the adaptive cruise control also works exactly how an adaptive cruise control should, which is to maintain the distance between the car itself and the car in front of it. In the entire ADAS suite, there is one thing that I find a little weird. It's called lead car departure. So essentially, if you are at a signal or something, if you're static and the system senses that the car in the front has started moving, it is going to show you some signs over here in the instrument console saying that, hey, you better get a move on as well. That, I think, is just useless and senseless because all the cars on the Indian roads come with this technology as default. It's called person in the back honking. Honda also has a lot of connectivity things going on. Of course, you can connect your smartphone with the system, but then you also have compatibility with the Google Home and Alexa. And then you can also have smartwatch integration. You can control a lot of functions through your smartwatch. Plus, there is a dedicated app which allows you to do a lot of functions, remote start the car and stuff like that. So all that connectivity is pretty sorted, and Honda has taken a lot of care to make sure that they have given everything that the industry rivals are right now offering. The sedan category has been largely stagnant for a fair amount of time now because SUVs are all the rage and they are taking away the market share. But thankfully, the sedan category has been at the level that it has been for some time, about 11% or 12% market share or thereabouts. But interestingly, there have been a couple of new introductions in the market, and that has essentially forced Honda to make this update happen. Had it not been for the Skoda Slavia and the Volkswagen Virtus, Honda would have perhaps just went on as they had been going. But those two cars have really tilted the game in the favor of the Europeans, and the Japanese had to do something. They had to wake up, and they did, and they have delivered a pretty fine update.